I could not be myself anymore. The second thing is I damaged myself so much in totally different ways. And the third thing was it was not compatible. It was not the life to be in a family and to be. Hey there, my name is David, and in this video, I want to share my personal story and music. I grew up in East Germany in a very small town called Löbau. I was born in 1987, and it was a time of transformation I was born in. The Berlin Wall was shut down in 1989, and I was living in my childhood in the early 90s. It was a time where my parents had to find a new path for their lives because the old system was gone now, and now they had to start to take advantage of something totally new. And yeah, there was space for my childhood because my parents, they were busy with their own lives. I really was lucky because I was getting into music really early in my life. I started, I think, in kindergarten when I was 5. I took part of a program called Musikalische Früherziehung here in Germany. So I started to play on the Glockenspiel, and I started to explore the instruments, and I draw my first notes in my folder. And yeah, so I started. And then after these 2 years, I went to the music school, and there we had this kind of finding stage where you can test an instrument for several weeks, and then you can start this instrument. I think I tried piano, I tried recorder, guitar, I even tried violin, and yeah, I think that's it. And then I started to play recorder. For some reason, for the most people, it's not an instrument what is cool, the first thing, but I can remember when I had this try-out lessons with my teacher, then I was so inspired and I was so pulled in the sound of the Panflöte. What's the English word for Panflöte? I don't know. Pan whistle. That's why I was starting to learn flute. And then there came a point in my life where I saw in TV a saxophone, and I listened to songs on the radio randomly. I did not know anything. I was always the kid which was humming around some melodies, something I heard. And so I really heard a lot of radio in my childhood. And yeah, I saw a saxophone, I heard it. And then I went to music school and I told my teacher, really old teacher who played any instrument you can imagine, from bassoon to trumpet to saxophone, clarinet, recorder, everything. And I told him, I want to learn saxophone. And he said, okay, cool, fine. Then, bring a saxophone, then we can start. And I said, okay, I don't have a saxophone and my parents don't have the money. Yeah, then you have to wait until the music school can buy one. So, and then I waited and waited. And finally, there was a saxophone there. And then I started to play saxophone. That was in 1997. I was 10 years old. Now I'm 37 years old and I play for 27 years the saxophone. It's my first love. But at the same time, I started to learn piano. I did not have a piano at this time, but I was getting a gift at Christmas time and it was a keyboard. And there I started to look all on the display, and there you had these fingers. And so the way every teacher in the music school would say, don't learn it like this. I did this in the first years and it was so much fun. I had all those demo tracks on the keyboard and I was exploring music through this instrument. There were, I think, 127 songs on it, from Brahms to Mozart to Pet Shop Boys to, I don't know, Elvis and How Deep Is Your Love. All those songs mixed. Yesterday, of course, Beatles. And I just tried to figure it out. And that was so much fun to explore music like this. And I can say this now because I was teaching in a school for 5 years now. And I stopped last summer. And the way we approach teaching music, especially in schools or on the schools where I was, is totally different. It's not like this exploring. You have a book and you have to find something and there's a task, and now spend some time with Mozart, or you have to listen to Smetana's Moldau, or now you have to make a pop song and you have to learn all the history of the pop music. So this was a totally different approach, and I'm really grateful that I had this approach in my life really early. And yeah, so I developed a deep connection with music, with totally different kinds of music. This was eye-opening, this was really mind-blowing, I would call it now. It brought the gift of music into my life really early. Then I started to play in a big band. I almost played 2 years, and then I started to play in the big band, and I was totally overwhelmed. The music was way too hard for me. I couldn't handle it, but I was swimming and tried my best to get through it. Yeah? And then in the year of 2001, something happened. I got a new teacher. I remember the first, or was the second lesson, I came into his room and I said, I did not practice anything you told me. I just had to practice for the big band. And he said, okay, yeah, you can put your saxophone together and go home. And if you have practiced my things, then you can come back next week. And I was like, what? And he was serious about it. So, and that was the first encounter with my new teacher. And I don't want to judge it in a way, that way or that way. I just can say the following 5 years, I learned so much. I learned really so much, and I played my first competitions. I started to play in a saxophone quartet, and I learned classical saxophone. My teacher was a clarinet player, and he came from this big tradition surrounded by Dresdner Staatskapelle. He came from the big Dresden music tradition. And this is really, in some kinds, it's really strict and you have to do it like this and that. But at this point of my life, it was totally okay for me. This was great. It was wonderful and I could learn so much from it. And yeah, I started to play with people together. We were all the same age. And yeah, this is a friendship. With some of them, it's still existing. That was over 20 years ago. This was a really inspiring time to get so deeply into music. It was not always easy to fulfill his expectations. And when I now think about it, I would definitely do things different, but it's always when you grow older and you think, what was it about in this time, and why did you do that? But that's crap. I can't change my past. At this moment, it was okay. It was good, and it was the best could happen to me. Music became second nature. I was in school, I was the saxophone player. I was the guy who goes to rehearsals every second day or every day, and who drives to big cities to play in a competition, or who goes not on the class trip because he has to do this and this and this. And so it was no question that I go to study music. This happened in 2005 when I made the exam at the Musikhochschule in Köln, in Germany. And yeah, there I met a really inspiring professor. I did not met him there. I met him before. I think it was in 2003 in Slovenia or 2002. This was, wow, it was another world for me because he was like a even bigger inspiration at this point in my life. I would say now he was not the best in the way of thinking of a teacher, but he was inspiring. He was inspiring me to do things, to search for things, to have a different perspective on things, to look different in music. And that was so important for me in this time. Because when you leave your small village and you move in a big city like Cologne with, I think, nearly 1 million inhabitants, then you have to look that you don't get lost. I was lucky to find people who were also really inspiring and learning with me together in the same age. And so I met, for example, Blaž, with whom I founded the Signum Saxophone Quartet, and later Alan and Eric and Enrico and all those, I would call them musical soulmates. And yeah, so the journey began. And we had much fun, as it always is, or as it was, in the first years of the new millennium. But it was also a time of hard work and a time of commitment. And I say this word commitment, I mean it's in every mouth. It's everywhere. You have to commit. You have to commit. And then there's also this word like mindset, this abundance mindset thing. And we developed this in a time nobody was talking about it. And that's sometimes I say, I mean, I just made a few right things in this time. And yeah, we practiced and we committed to this idea of a quartet of four young guys going together, practicing, making party together, drinking beer together, and exploring the world together. And we went to Thailand to the World Saxophone Congress, and we went to several competitions, and there was just growing. And we had so much fun, and it was growing bigger, and everybody was doing everything for it, with all peaks and low points you can have on this journey. This was a really big chapter in my life. You can hear it, how I talk about it. In the year of 2015, I decided to leave the quartet, and I decided to make a totally breakup in my life. I moved away from Cologne. I moved back to East Germany. It was like I put the finger on the globe, and my wife and I, my wife nowadays, before she was my girlfriend, we put the finger on the globe and just said, we move here. And actually we got to Leipzig. This Leipzig, it was in 2016, 15, was a place, I think the New York Times called it, it's like the new Chicago or something like that, and a future city where a lot of people were moving there. And I think the hype is a little bit over, but it's a really beautiful city to live in. I closed early relationships to Cologne, and we moved with everything we had. And Vicky, my girlfriend this time, she had a son, Jonathan, and we were a little family, and this was also new for me. And there were so much things leading to this decision to leave Signum. I think I want to mention three things. The first thing was I couldn't, it was not compatible. It was not the life to be in a family and to be my second life started back in East Germany. I was in Leipzig. Yeah, it was, when I talk about it now, I can feel this springtime, this early March, really cold, and we grew up really early in the morning, and we had to do all the things to go to this house and to manage this thing. And then I had a job in the museum to present music instruments, which was really paid bad, but was in the center of Leipzig, near the Augustusplatz, and I was really enjoying this, just going there, drinking a coffee and writing in my diary. Finally, I came to a point where I did not earn money, and it was really hard. I mean, to live in a big city is great and is nice, but you have always to make compromises. You have a shitty little apartment, or you live in not the best area. So there were several points we decided something has to change, and then I was searching for jobs and looking there and there and there, and then I find a job where I sent my resume and all my things, and it was for a music director of a music school. It was not an unknown music school for me. It was a music school where I made my first competitions when I was a kid. This was happening. That was, they called me and said, you can take this job if you want. Is the salary, is it fine for you? And I was like on the phone, what? I was so surprised, because honestly, I had no experience in this area to manage a music school. I did not know what it was meant to be there and have a 9 to 5 job, 40 hours, sit there in the office every day and tell other people what to do. It was totally not my business. But in these years, 8 years ago, I was really open and I was taking every possibility to make something new and not only playing baritone saxophone in a saxophone quartet, because I did this for 9 years and now there was a time for something new. So I was really ambitious and I started to read books about leadership and personal growth came into my life and all the things. Yeah, and then I went there. We moved back to the small village in East Saxony, and we moved to the family house of Vicky, and yeah, that was happening in 1 year from Cologne, 1 million people, to a really small village called Weißenberg with I think 1,000 people, but 1,000 people over a really big area. So it was really village life, and that was wow. That was really kind of hard, and I was every day driving 1 hour there and 1 hour back, and so I was not living there. I was at the place where the music school was. Really, really fast it happened that I understood I'm not meant to be there. I'm not the person who's sitting on the table from 9 to 5 and putting the mouse on the computer and say other people what to do. I did not make anything with music in this time, or say really, really less. I started a little saxophone quartet with my old teacher and some friends, and that's it. But I had no time and I had no capacity to make something like that. So for me, it was clear I can't do this anymore. I think that was clear 3 months after I started, but I made it for 2 years. I stayed there for 2 years and then I took the break and got out of it. And then I was lucky because in the village where I lived, there was a school. It was a free school, so it was not led by the government, and I could enter there without several diplomas I maybe need for other schools. And then I was getting there into the school, and now I was a school teacher for music. And that's also a totally different thing. Yeah? You stay in front of a class of 25 to 30 people and you're the entertainer. You have to get them and you have to teach them something. And then you have 25 growing young people who are maybe not so motivated to make music, or in other words, maybe some hate music or hate to sing, or some never sung in their life. Or so there's such a variety of pupils I had, and this was kind of hard, but from another perspective, I learned so much. I learned so much from these young people, and I had so nice and so beautiful moments. And we had a choir, we had a small school band, and yeah, I was learning with them how to make it. And that, I think that was the magic of these years. So last year for me was another cut. I started YouTube. I started a channel as a saxophone educator in Germany. And yeah, I also have a studio. I started to produce electronic music in the last 5 years next to my school activities. And I created a lot of music with Ableton Live, and I dived into this electronic music world. And I also had some projects coming, but then there was the pandemic all over the world. So what I had started in 2019 was kind of frozen over 2020 and 2021. So in 2022, I started again, and I made some projects with spoken word artists here in my area. Yeah, and last year I noticed, okay, I have to concentrate, I have to focus, I have to deal with what I have. I live here in a really small town, but I have the possibilities of the internet, of all those things. We have to connect us with the world, and I feel really, really alive. I feel really good. I'm in a positive way. I'm arrived in my life. I have 3 kids. I have a wonderful wife. We both have our own businesses, and yeah, we have a life that is worth to live. I mean, it's fun. It's not always that we are jumping around and and happy every day, but maybe every second day we are saying, "Wow, so great to be on your own. So great to make your own decisions and to be your own boss." And I think for the kids, this is so valuable. This is so much worth. They see what is possible, and in my case, I mean, I tried so many different things. What I explained to you in the past minutes, and all these experiences led me to where I am now. I'm really grateful to be here. I'm on a journey, but I feel that I'm on a journey which is leading somewhere. There are so many things that could be improved. My English is maybe the first one, but yeah, it feels good and it makes sense, and that's important. And I don't know where you are in your life, on which point. I just can suggest you trust in you, just in somebody. If you have somebody, build a relationship with them. Build relationships. I mean, it's the most important thing you can do in your life. Build strong relationships, because they can always catch you, and you have always something to give in and to take. And I mean, it's not give and take. I'm not a big fan of this polarity thing, but it's something you can be a part of, a relationship. And it's not just between you and I, or my partner, my wife and I. No, also the kids, the family, friends. This relationships, they make our life worthy. I'm really convinced that this is the point. So that was my story. Let me know, what's your story? Where have you to struggle in your life? What was music giving to you? How did music inspire your life? See you in the next video. Bye.